I don't know who you can lose to. I don't know that one, but I know who you can't lose to, and you can't lose to Middle Tennessee State University.
On today's Throwdown Thursday edition of the Odd Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and the OCP team recap Week 4 games, discuss the latest off-field college football developments, review Dr. Adams' strictly for entertainment purposes picks, as well as previewing Week 5 of the college football season. Welcome to today's show. The Odd Coaches Podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, sitting in for my partner who is on anniversary assignment, and we never want to mess that up, the captain for life himself, Will Cotton. Will, how are you this morning? And thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's great. Nice early to talk sports and ready to go. Good morning.
All right, so on this Throwdown Thursday edition, we are going to do all things college football. And segment one, my favorite segment of the week of all my shows, is we're going to go around the territories. And fans who don't know, I'm a professional wrestling fan, and that's how we used to watch and monitor wrestling. We would go around the different territories and see what's happening. And we're going to start off with the ACC. Will, what you're going to do is just kind of react to whatever the bullet points are on my screen, because shows on my end. So, one, Clemson's not that good. Mike keeps telling me every week that there's something off, and as I watch them play Wake Forest, there's something off, man. What are you thinking about Clemson?
Clemson, they ran a really good. They had a good run. Every good team goes through that running. I think Miami did it, USC. They're outside of like Alabama's and teams like that. Oregon, if you're talking about in the national stage, it's just their time. They ran their course, I should say. You become so good that people want to join you, and then you become so good that people want to beat you. So instead of recruiting all the guys that they were getting, now they're getting teams like, well, now I want to beat them. I want to beat them. So, those things, man, it's, die a hero or you live long enough to be the villain. And I think Clemson is getting there. They beat up people. Remember, they used to beat people up too. The last couple of years in the ACC, it was like, they were beating like 50-7, 74-6, and a lot of teams coaches don't forget that. They don't forget that. As soon as you have a little, crack in the armor, they're going to start exploit you. So definitely they're getting, they passed their time, and teams are going to let them know that, that they're catching up and that they know what they have to do, because for now, everyone's like, oh, well, now the standard is Clemson. So everybody is setting up their teams to beat Clemson. So now they have the team, the schemes, the players. So, yeah, now they're actually getting teams, and they're not getting the same amount of talent back. It's going to start to balance out. And, they got to play now. They can't they walk in and say, we're Clemson, give us 35 points, so they have to play. So.
All right. Voting resumed. All right. Is it time to watch NC State and Florida State? Both of them are undefeated. I don't think Clemson's that good. They're ACC good. Is it time to start watching NC State or Florida State, or let's just wait a little bit?
Let's go Florida State. Always interesting about that state and that team. Being a Gators fan, I'm saying that, right? NC State, no, they're good story, but I wouldn't focus on them.
All right. And Miami, as I am fond of saying, I don't know who you can lose to. I don't know that one, but I know who you can't lose to, and you can't lose to Middle Tennessee State University. If Mike was on, he would say, "Hey, I don't want to hear nothing about them directional schools." So, what are we doing in Miami, man? I thought we had turned the corner.
Well, it's unfortunate because every time they have the big three, the Gators, the Seminole, and the Hurricanes, two are going to be bums. That's usually the way it goes, man.
Well,
And
Miami is done for the season.
yeah,
Because you can't come back from that one, but continue on.
Florida started off, but now they're getting their butt kicked, and Miami is not ready. So it looks like Florida State is going to be the one that's going to represent the Florida State. Yeah, and that's just how. I mean, they're not playing well. They're young kids. People have to remember these are young kids, and they get new teammates every year. It's hard to continue that excellence year after year after year. So,
all right. So we're going to move to the American, and I want to apologize to our listening audience. I overvalued Houston. I'm sorry. That was it for Houston. I just had to apologize because I got to watch them every week because I did a season-long bet, and that's why it's called gambling. Moving on from Houston, though, since he's back to winning games, they may return to the top 25. Same with UCF. Any thoughts on the American Conference, sir?
They'll just make noise. NCAA, they'll go out, they'll win. They'll say we need to be in the playoff. We need to be in the playoffs. And NCAA will say, AP will say, BCS will say, or CFP, I should say, sorry, will say, because at the end of the day, the conference isn't strong enough. Even you win and win and win, you don't win, you're not going to get into the playoff, which is a difficult thing to do because now you have to schedule actually people who wants to, good teams. But the problem is they don't want to play UCF. They don't want to play the other teams because they don't want to, risk their loss. So it's a difficult, unless the NCAA says, look, we're going to make our own schedules. No team, colleges aren't going to make their schedules. You're not going to pay teams that you're going to play. You're going to play based on how you played last year. If you were a top 25 team, you're going to get a top 25 schedule.
Well, you won't have to worry about that because the top group of 5 team, I believe, makes it to the Sugar Bowl. And so somebody from the group of 5 is going to make a decent payoff with that. So
yeah, that's really it is.
We're going to pop over to the Big Ten now. Much respect to the Terps. They came out. They didn't embarrass themselves against Michigan. Hopefully they can ride that throughout. Mel was smart to cash the check, and that's for Michigan State fans. And Will, I was 3-1. Anything catch your eye this week with the Big Ten?
Michigan may be a little vulnerable. You're what? I think 4th in the country. You're playing against, Maryland. That should be 35, 40-point win. Even at home. It's not like they were playing in Bird Stadium. They still call it Bird Stadium?
No, it is SECU Stadium. And they made that change last week. They bought the rights from Capital One. And now Maryland's got a little more money for their basketball facility. Fans, check out last week's episode for the full rundown of that one.
But Michigan has to tighten up. It could be maybe we're playing Maryland, whatever. Or it could be like, man, they got exposed a little bit. So we'll see next year. We'll see next week if they're really serious.
Well, my partner will applesauce me on both Michigan and Ohio State. So we're going to move on to the Big 12. Bad loss for Oklahoma and the Big 12. Go Kansas, as fans who's followed me knows. I took Kansas in the over, and now it's just house money. And TCU is undefeated. Anybody will in the Big 12 catch your eye? And notice I didn't mention that burnt orange team who continues to disappoint.
Unfortunately, I was big on Texas. I was really hyped Texas coming into the season. I thought they had a really good coach. I think they had a really good team with athletes. And right now it's getting tough. Put up or shut up kind of time, But any other teams in the Big 12, Not really. Neither really show that they're beatable and they're really not ready to move over. Again, this is just September, so maybe in November we're saying something different, but not really. Nah, I don't think that. Nah. TCU is good, but always one of those teams that's they'll be in a bowl game, a good one too, but nothing in the CFP. And same thing with Kansas State. Great wins though. No hate.
All right, HBCUs, Jackson State and North Carolina Central are still undefeated. We are watching them closely. Hampton lost to University of Delaware, the Blue Hens, but Hampton is still 3-1. So fans, please make sure you check out HBCU football. Shout out every week to Howard and OCP team correspondent Akil Russell. Deacon, anything going on in the HBCUs, or we're just waiting for Deion's team to make it to the final and try to win this year instead of lose?
We just need more exposure. Just keep it going. I love it. I've seen the games on ESPN and
ESPN 6.
Yep, yeah, or ESPN 5, the Cinco, if you remember that one. But yeah, they just need to keep exposing themselves, man. They have some great athletes. They have some great talent. They have some great coaches. I hope they can retain all those guys, and when they see bigger universities don't come in and say, oh, let's pick up these coaches and grab these players, and they keep those players, keep those coaches. Don't get them poached.
If you're in Nebraska, do you call Deion?
Deion ain't going to Nebraska.
He went to Jackson, Mississippi.
Well, he did it for a cause. He did it for the brother call. He did it for the cause.
All right. Group of 5, sir. Middle Tennessee State hung 45 on Miami. You can't give up 45 to Middle Tennessee State. Kent State hung with Georgia for a little bit. Northern Illinois hung with Kentucky. And don't look now, but Coastal Carolina is undefeated as a group of 5. They may return to the top 25. Take a look at the bottom as you look at that. And James Madison is undefeated
Dukes.
As they move up to playing the big boys. Anything catch your eye with the group of 5, sir?
I wonder if NIL has to do with any of this. If you're able to pull in really talent, if you're really pulling in really people are like, okay, now that we're actually like making money and guys are exposure, is that making it better for the kids show out better? It's good. I think it's good. Parity is always good in sports.
I'm going to give you a quick answer on that, and I will selfishly call it the hood factor. I don't think it's NIL. I think these coaches recruit guys that fit them. One of the things we did when I coached at Hood College was coach guys that didn't care about fancy gyms because we didn't have one, fancy uniforms because we didn't have them, fancy locker rooms. Nah, we just want to play ball. So we will go to your fancy gym, dress in your fancy locker room, beat you, and leave and go to Wendy's. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm seeing is guys recruiting folks that are dogs, and let's go play. So
yeah, I think colleges are saying a different tune. I think they're going out there actually, like you said, they're going out and they're getting talent. They're getting guys who look, how fast are you? I can do that. The gadget play, the playoff, the playbooks, the offenses. It's a lot more variety. They can do a lot more different things and run them. So it just makes it a more explosive. I mean, if you have a guy who can scheme and make really run good and you can run plays that are sharp and executed well, then yeah, I mean, you're going to beat anybody. I mean, you're talking about foundational football. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I don't poo-poo NIL. NIL does have some play, but at the end of the day, you blow the whistle and you get hit.
Yeah.
So NIL doesn't stop you from the hitting part. Moving towards independence, and there's only one independent I have to worry about right now, and that is Notre Dame. They are 2-2. Thank you, because we have them on the long extended play.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead to the SEC. Georgia and Kentucky didn't impress. Alabama is off punishment. Arkansas blew it. That's y'all fault. And let's keep an eye on Tennessee and Ole Miss.
Oh, yes.
Anything from the SEC catch your eye, sir?
Tennessee. Man, Tennessee, if you look at Tennessee 2 years ago, they couldn't do anything. I think now they're finally running the coach offense, and that's becoming very, very, very dangerous because they're downfield. They tore Florida apart. You know, they were just embarrassing. They were scoring. I mean, they were turning on touchdowns for turnovers too, which is great. Obviously, Alabama is still going to be Alabama. Georgia's going to be Georgia. Kentucky is very exciting. I think that win against Florida really catapult their team, and that could ride them through the season. I mean, you know, and again, you're SEC, so you could actually get that catapult 2 or 3 times during the season if you get those wins. It's just going to be exciting. You have a couple old dogs, and then you have some new dogs, and to see if they can sustain and keep you know, as we get to October, November, and it's cold. Because remember, a lot of these dudes, they Southern brothers. You know, and they don't like, 45 degrees, 35 degrees. So we'll see how things that when temperature gets a little cold. But right now they're balling. They're balling.
Well, my partner has been big on Kentucky for the last 2 years, and he is the football guy. So we're going to close out around the territories with the Pac-12. USC will be ranked high, but they're not very good. Washington and UCLA are undefeated. Utah flat out blew it because they're going to run through a lot of games now, but they're not going to be in the national picture because of that loss. And so did Oregon with that dumb scheduling. No matter what they do the rest of the season, the entire world knows when you played somebody with a pulse, it was 45-3. So everything else you do says, hey, they're not very good. What are you thinking about the Pac-12?
Every year they get hyped up. Every year they get in the top 25, and every year they show us that they just really aren't that good when they play outside of the conference. And it's just unfortunate, Utah came in, they pooped the bed. I used to like say that, and then USC, they're running off their coach's steam, he's like. I'm not a believer. And again, another problem is they're so late that a lot of people can't really know.
Oh, yeah.
So
you'll find out in segment 3. I bet on USC, but I didn't wait up for the I didn't wait up for it.
Right.
All right. So with that, fans, we have gone around the territories. And with that, we'll take a brief break, come back and talk about off-field things going on in college football on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler and Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment 2, we're going to talk about some off-field issues in college football. It is these off-field issues that keep us abreast on the on-field issues. So, hey, let's get to it. Will, is this sour grapes? In a letter provided to the University of California Board of Regents ahead of a closed-door session to discuss UCLA's proposed move to the Big Ten Conference, fellas, it ain't proposed. They're leaving. Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff detailed significant concerns he had on the move, including the effect on student athletes' mental health, increased travel and operational costs, and negative impacts on both Cal's revenue and the UC system's climate goals. None of which UCLA cares about because they're going to get a check for at least $80 million. Right. So, Commissioner Kliavkoff said increased revenue at UCLA will receive would be completely offset by the higher costs coming with added travel, the need for competitive salaries within the Big Ten, and game guarantee expenses. UCLA currently spends about $8.1 million on travel for its teams. Now it's going to be a 100% increase and a 160% increase if they use charters. One, they're leaving, man. Yeah. Two, is this sour grapes or does he have a point?
It's a little bit of both. I think he's unsure. I think he's not as a believer as he is, because if somebody was truly a believer, they'd be like, "Yep, we're going to the Big Ten, and we are ready to go, and we are ready, and we're ready. We're excited to join the new conference. We want to expose our student athletes to be exposed to different media markets. Great, this is excellent stuff for me. If they were terrible, they'd still take it because they're getting $80 million. It's like, hey, I'm like when Maryland joined the Big Ten. It's like, hey, let's join, let's do it. I think it's a little nothing. I think it's somebody who enjoys the old ways of things. They like the old way, the traditional ways. The comfortability. I think somebody's actually seeing that there is a national presence that needs to be exposed by the Pac-12 and Pac-10 or what it used to be. And I think that you can look at the money now, but I mean, if we're talking about if UCLA goes out to East and all of a sudden blows up, and you have a ton of young kids, like my son's like 6 years old. If he sees UCLA is blowing up on college, hey, I love like UCLA, exactly with USC. When USA blew up, it was a national thing. It's hard to do that now because you're stuck in the West. So I think if you can actually expose yourself and be a really good team and get the recruits, it can explode and be a national thing. You can always find people who I love USC. Man, you're from Virginia. You're from New York. We talking about USC. Things like that. Oh, Reggie Bush. Man, I love that team. And that team resonates for generations. So on the short side, yeah, you may end up putting out money. It's not, it's not ideal, but I think in 10, 15 years, if you can actually put a real team and program, sky's the limit, sky's the limit. And you already have a good brand. It's known. It's a big brand. It just has to catch fire nationally. So.
Well, here's the last takeaway from the sour grapes thought. Here's the last quote I'm going to use from the commissioner. Any financial gains UCLA will achieve by joining the Big Ten will go to airline and charter companies, administrators and coaches' salaries, and other recipients rather than providing any additional resources for the student athletes. That's when I call BS. Okay. Yeah. Because when you start talking about the charter companies and all of that, hey, UCLA has it's not my fault that Cal Sports is not wherever it's supposed to be. And as Billy Shakespeare said, to thy own self be true. We have followed these stories since the beginning and we will continue to follow it. But don't tell me about the student athletes when you're trying to schedule games at 9:00 in the morning on your network so you could get East Coast eyes. So stop it. All right. Is it really worth it? The NCAA placed LSU football on 1-year probation and issued a 3-year show cause penalty against a former assistant coach who admitted to meeting with a prospect and giving him team gear during a COVID recruiting dead period. So the Tigers fired offensive line coach James Craig for cause in June 2021 after admitting he violated NCAA rules. On August 25th, a Louisiana judge awarded him nearly $500,000 after ruling that LSU terminated his contract without cause. At the time, the university said it planned to appeal the ruling. Don't. In addition, the probation, LSU already self-imposed a $5,000 fine. 1 week they penalized themselves for a week in recruiting communication. And let me tell you what really happened. Okay. According to the NCAA fraction report, a prospect's mother arranged a group of 14 recruits to make an informal visit to LSU's campus. Will, when you played for me, you went on unofficial visits and they weren't recruiting you, but man, I'll take the ride, coach.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Okay, we got 14 recruits. Okay. The LSU officials met with the football coaches, including Craig, who emphasized the staff could not have any in-person contact with recruits. Okay. So you came to campus with mom and y'all ain't supposed to meet with them. Okay. The report said the mother planned to move to Baton Rouge if her son attended LSU. She asked for recommendation on possible neighborhoods to visit. That happens. Now, again, the coach wasn't supposed to talk to nobody, but man, we always talk about, hey, what restaurant should we go to? What's this? What's that? The former assistant coach recommended several neighborhoods, including his own, provided directions to the neighborhood, arranged to greet the prospect family as they drove through the neighborhood, thus violating the rules. Okay, we got you dead to rights. Mm-hmm. The next weekend, according to the NCAA report, an assistant recruiting director picked up the prospect and his girlfriend at a hotel, drove him to the stadium for a tour, and the prospect and his family again drove through the former assistant coach's neighborhood. This is all bad. We got you dead to rights. But the question that I had to start the segment, is this really worth it? Herm Edwards did something very similar at Arizona State. As somebody who begrudgingly to most people around me as an actual rule follower, and as one of my former players who's looking at me saying, but I saw those guys practicing. We're not doing that. But coach, it's not worth it. It's not. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. And again, I'm laughing because these are conversations that actually took place when Will was in school. How come we can't? We're not doing that. Again, coaches, man, none of this is worth a career, a job, or anything. You don't need no show clauses. If they cheat, they cheat. But, make sure you're good. Well, after hearing a little bit about LSU's violation, any thoughts, man, before we close out this segment?
I'm a compliance officer. So, it's all about rules. It doesn't matter if it's a little gift or if it's a house, it's illegal, and if the one thing is to do it and be slick about it, but one to be just blatant and just driving people around and, everybody can see you and look, there goes coach and there goes, they're not even slick. They're not even slick anymore. They're not even trying. So, the only person you have to blame is himself because he broke rules. And like you said, they're right. You did what you weren't supposed to do and you did it and you were exposed to doing that. So they're wrong. They're wrong. He should have been he should have been penalized. And I think LSU said, hey, I know we told you to do that. But you got caught. So you're kind of on your own.
Yes, you did. All right. So fans, as we close out this segment and begin our last segment, wasn't as good as last week, or wasn't as bad as my previous NFL picks. We'll be right back on the Yacht Coaches Podcast.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA Save Project's academic monitoring service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast, and it's segment 3, telling the truth. We're going to talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. The OCP Top 5. So again, fans, every week we tell you the OCP Top 5 focuses only on the college football playoff because my partner only cares about championships, and the rest of it is good conversation. So Georgia's number 1, despite their unimpressive performance. As I told you in the first segment, Alabama is off punishment, so they are back to being number 2. Ohio State begrudgingly is number 3. Clemson begrudgingly is number 4, and USC begrudgingly is number 5. Why are Ohio State, Clemson, and USC 3, 4, and 5? Because the Big Ten's going to have a representative unless they all have one loss. ACC and Pac-12 got a shot. They're not going to put 3 SEC teams in, but they'll put 2. And that's why Kentucky can't get in. That's why Tennessee can't get in. That's why Ole Miss, we're not talking about them in this segment because it's going to be Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah, so they have to win the SEC.
And they're not. So on the outside looking in, we've got Michigan, who are going to hang around. They're undefeated, and so they end up losing to somebody they ain't got no business losing to. With Oklahoma's loss, Oklahoma State becomes the Big 12's best bet. And then when Bedlam hits and Oklahoma gets the win, Big 12's eliminated. Kind of how it works out.
Yeah.
NC State actually can do something, and Washington is better than I thought. And man, since Utah lost, if Washington can keep winning, they come into the conversation. So, Will, any thoughts about the top 5?
They look solid. I mean, I'm glad they pushed out Michigan because even though they beat Maryland, but they squeaked through. And they should move down just a little bit for that. But I think everything else is solid. I was actually very happy that they finally pushed Alabama to 2 because they've been playing all these cupcakes. And they really, week 1, they played, I forgot who they played. But I remember Georgia played Oregon. And Alabama played, I forgot, they played, Sister of the Poor. I forgot who they played. But it was ugly. And they got a pass the next week. They were still, number 1, and then they play Texas. And then, now they're playing another cupcake. And it's like, what, so I think the top 5 is where it needs to be. Georgia should be 1. Alabama is still number 2. And then Ohio State is 3. And then 4 and 5 is going to be the interesting part moving up. That's going to probably move a lot in terms of as teams lose, win, and start to get momentum. But 1, 2, 3 is correct. 4 and 5 this week is correct. All today.
2 things about Alabama. 1, the cupcake that they played in question was Utah State. And 2, there's a reason why they do that because here's Alabama's schedule over the next 3 weeks: Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. So I hope you are tan, rested, and ready because it's about to get real quick.
Tennessee is going to be it's going to be a good measuring stick for them. That's going to really see what's going on. But on both sides of that team, really.
Yeah. So Alabama's about to go on the run. So last week in our picks of the week, I was 3 and 2, pimping around like peacock, and I was plus $9.55 as my wife shakes her head every week. This week, I am kind of returning to earth. I was 2 and 3, 40%. Minus $12.60, Will. So overall on the season, let's see, I am 9 and 11, and that's not where I want to be, but hey, I'm down $26.65 on the season. So, hey, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Here are my picks for the weeks, and you can always follow my picks on Twitter. I had USC minus 6.5. That didn't work out for me. They did win the game, but they didn't win by enough. So I am 2-1 against the spread. My over and under was Duke and Kansas, and they decided to play a little defense late in the game. So I am 2-1 versus in terms of over under picks. My 2 play of the week. This is why I'm a little salty. Oklahoma and Texas.
Man,
Both
I'm
teams.
looking at my ticket. I'm looking at my ticket, and there's only teams that were lost, and it was Texas and Oklahoma.
I'm like,
everybody else was hit. Michigan hit. Clemson, Louisville, Notre Dame plus 1.5. That was easy. 1.5. Kentucky. It was a tough win. Ole Miss, Ohio State, and it blew out Wisconsin. Shouldn't have been in prime time. And Cal, I had Cal whooping up on Arizona because Arizona's not that good. And
yes, no more Desert Swarm. So I did hit on my 3 play of the week, which was Michigan, Ohio State, and Auburn. So that is my first 3-play victory of the season. So that helped me financially. Yeah. So I'm 1-2 on 3 plays, and my money line pick came through the upset of the week. Notre Dame over UNC. So now for the money line pick,
it's crazy that was plus 1.5. I was when I saw that, because when I look at games, I'm big. I especially with college games, I'm like, oh yeah, money line. That's easy. It's easy. When I saw that they were plus 1.5 versus UNC, man, I said, give me that. That was easy money. Easy money. Easy money.
All right, so week 5 games to watch. It's starting to get real, and I'm kind of excited about this, Will. Alabama versus Arkansas. That is a game to watch, and Arkansas blew it. That's why I said Arkansas blew it, because if they beat Texas A&M, they come into this game on fire, and now they're playing catch-up in a league you can't play catch-up in.
Yeah.
Because if Alabama beats them, that's 2 losses, you're done. And now you're looking at what bowl game you're going to play in, not anything with the playoffs.
Yeah.
NC State's playing Clemson next week. I'm trying to watch that somewhere.
Yeah. 7:30 too. Not bad.
I asked if NC State should be watched, and I'm not a fan of Clemson right now. Clemson's winning, but they're not playing well. And you've heard me say that as my player. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Oklahoma State's playing Baylor. Does Baylor put Oklahoma State out early, or do we still have to hold on to Oklahoma State?
I'm going to go. Oh, no, I was going to say Oklahoma State and Baylor, man, I like, 3:30. I like Baylor. I think Baylor upsets. I think they can somehow get us. I'm not a big believer of Oklahoma State. I think 9 is a little high, and I think they lose that.
All right. Wake Forest plays FSU this weekend. Again, do we pay attention? Because that's going to kind of be one of those elimination contenders matches in terms of national relevance, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Kentucky against Ole Miss. Now, my partner loves Kentucky, but he loves himself some Lane Kiffin. Sent some players to him. Lane and him have had a frothy beverage or two. So that's an eliminators game because somebody's coming out with a loss. Navy against Air Force. I always love when the service academies play each other. And Michigan State is coming to town.
Yeah, I'm going to that game.
Terps. Hey, all right.
Yep.
So Maryland has an opportunity.
Yeah.
They've won 3 games clean. SMU could have been a little better, but whatever. They lost to Michigan, playing with a chance to win going into the 4th. Hey, Now you're playing Michigan State. Mel Tucker's already signed his money, so he's good. So he's losing this year, and that loss to Washington opened my eyes to say they're not very good. Shout out to Jesse Losnick, though, because that's my man.
Right.
Michigan State, not alum, but super fan. So, man, Maryland can get into the top 25 with a win against Michigan State, and then they're on the national radar.
Yeah. And really, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know they have a black coach, And
Coach Locks.
Yep.
Friend of the
So
show,
I mean,
friend of the
man,
show.
and they brought him all the way through Alabama, and they were excited about him. And he finally got the team up. The players are playing well. Twia Vangaloa. I always say his name wrong.
That's okay.
But the quarterback who has the brother in the Miami Dolphins is playing. He's playing good. He's playing pretty good.
He's playing very good.
The kid, they have some ballers, and they're scrappy, and they can ball. And people got to remember, dog, our area and DMV has some ballers. We have some guys that can put up with the Ohio, the California, the Florida. We have guys that can run. It's now that we can actually keep them and keep in state. That's something that we're actually got to do. So, yeah, man, I think they can come out. I think they're hyped. I think they're hungry. I think it helps them that they lost to Michigan because they know that they're gonna come in. The focus is going to come in next week. They're playing from home. They're not going to play in Ann Arbor. They can sleep in their own beds, and it'll be, man.
The big thing coming off a loss for me as a coach's perspective is that now I have your attention in practice.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you recall your senior year, we came off of a bad loss, ran off by 11 straight to end the season until an ankle sprain cost us a title. So going to that mode, I think that he's going to have their attention all week. Speaking of attention, we'll end the show with our season-long win totals. So we've got Alabama over 11.5. They're at 4 wins, rolling along. Georgia's over 11. They got 4 wins. Houston's over 9.5. That's why I apologize, fans. Overvalued them. They're at 2. Kansas is over 2.5. They're already exceeded that. They're 4. Yep. NC State's over 8.5. They're at 4. Next week's a big week because we can get halfway there. Nebraska under 7.5. Sorry, folks, but we called that one early. Notre Dame over 8.5. They're at 2 now, and I think they can go in a little something. Penn State's over 8.5. They're at 4. Texas is under 8.5. They're at 2.
Big game for Texas. They lost 2 tough games, and if this is you may not be playing for a bowl win, but you're going to play for your season. You lost 2 tough losses against Alabama, and then you lost last week against TCU, or tonight against TCU. Don't fall off the rails. Don't let the train fall off the tracks, man. Like, you guys have a great season. You have good players, good coaching. Don't lose the focus, man. Keep going to win. This is going to be a big one for them. If they lose, season's over. That's what I'm going to say.
They got West Virginia next, and then they're at Oklahoma, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. So they have a chance to get a good bowl, but I don't care that much. I hope they lose.
Oh yeah, but like I said, they lose, it's over because that next couple games is going to be tougher for them. So they need some momentum going into the game.
Texas A&M is under 8.5, and that 3rd win came. So now I'm a little nervous because if I could have snuck in that loss yesterday, I've got South Carolina over 6.5. That was an overvalued play. South Carolina, I saw them play. They're not very good.
Not very good.
Utah over 9. They actually have a very good chance of getting that. Clemson's over 10.5. They're at 4, and Ohio State over 11. They're at 4. So that is the season predictions that we did at the beginning, and we follow them through like we do in the NFL show that Will's on frequently. Anything we need to look for the week before we let our audience go, sir?
Oh man, the Maryland, Michigan State. That's going to be the game of the week.
Game of the week is Maryland, Michigan
State. Game of the week. But no, I'm just kidding. The earlier game is going to be, I believe it's Ole Miss versus Kentucky. I think they play at 12.
Wow.
That's going to be a big game right there. That's going to be a really exciting game. And I also think that West Virginia versus Texas is going to be a shootout. A lot of scoring, a lot of big plays, a lot of who's my boy who does that? The guy.
Gus Johnson.
Gus Johnson. Love that guy. You're going to get
Howard University alum.
You're going to get a lot of Gus Johnson next week with that game. So, yeah, some good games I'm excited for.
All right, and fans, excuse my darkness. Dave Chappelle Show. We have finally moved. There is a lot going on, but we're very excited over the next couple of weeks. My wife, who you might have seen her arm come in with the coffee, she's going to help me get something up in the back, but you got to take everything out before you know what to put up. And very excited about the move, very excited about the deck. Very excited about the house. So on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, and our capable fill-in, the captain himself, Will Cotton, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
Have a good one.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.